All right, welcome back to another Share Smoke segment of the Cigar Snob Podcast. My name is Eric Calvino, and I'm here with Josh Habursky, CEO of PCA, Premium Cigar Association. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, it's a great welcome, cigar, cafecito, coming to Miami, like this official setup. I feel honored to be here.
Well, we're honored to have you here, man. You've been traveling like crazy.
All over the place.
Thank you for stopping in, man. It's good stuff. So we like to, before we get into all the PCA stuff and your background and everything, I'd love to know how you first got into cigars. What was your first cigar?
Yeah, my first cigar was when I was an undergraduate student at Washington and Jefferson College, small liberal arts college outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I had a very influential professor in my life, my mentor, political science professor. And we used to smoke cigars once a week. It was like a ad hoc Winston Churchill society. And, we would talk politics and smoke cigars. And I wanted to be a political science professor. Like, this guy was my hero. Yeah. It was like, the pinstripe suits, the cigar, the swagger. I'm like, when I grow up, I want to be this guy. Yeah. So the love of cigars kind of came through that.
And of fashion.
And fashion. I still have a lot to learn there. But, so first cigar, I was actually a Java Mint. I remember that. I don't smoke flavored cigars now, but that was the first cigar that I remember. It was actually at Mike Ditka's restaurant. Like, there was a restaurant in Pittsburgh. We were working on political campaigns, and we had just gotten done with a cycle and, lit up a cigar after we had a steak. And ever since then, it's been a regular passion, social passion for me. And I still have kind of that, politics plus cigars. I think that they're synonymous with one another.
Yeah, no doubt about it, right? Politics and cigars have always gone hand in hand.
The smoke-filled room.
The smoke-filled room.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. It's the quintessential political term. So then Pittsburgh, is that where you're originally from?
I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania,
okay.
So about 2 hours from Pittsburgh.
And cigars were never part of your upbringing? Not like, for example, for us, cigars are our everyday life as a Cuban or Cuban American.
Yeah, I mean, never when I was growing up, neither of my parents were cigar enthusiasts. Grandparents weren't. It was never commonplace. I had an uncle that, maybe at a wedding would have a cigar, but really that college experience was the first time for me, and, it just continued. And I ended up moving to D.C. about 12 years ago, and capstones in my life were always centered around cigars. I mentioned the influential professor. I was all set to kind of follow that track of being a political science professor, but we had won an award through the American Association of Political Consultants, and I had to go to D.C. To accept the award. And I went to Shelley's back room, and I had a cigar. I had an amazing time, just met a bunch of people, and I'm like, you know what? I need to be in the epicenter of it. I need to be at Shelley's, learning the political system. It's like if you're playing in the major leagues, you got to be in D.C. for politics. Yeah. It's New York, it's finance. L.A., it's fashion.
Nashville,
Hollywood.
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I completely changed trajectory. I had a full ride scholarship to the University of Georgia and a nice scholarship at Penn State. And I said, all right, I got to shoot some, resumes out and make some applications in DC. And I ended up going to Georgetown for my master's degree. But it was really that experience at Shelley's that I said, all right, I'm changing my course of my life.
Wow. That's crazy. I love Shelley's back room.
Yeah.
Every time we go to DC, we have to stop by there. But man, for that to have been such a pivotal moment that changed your trajectory, is pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
And they know this?
They know this.
Yeah.
The American Association. I told them I should give you a testimonial or something because this really changed it. And I was a regular there. I've now donated cigars for the holiday party for the American Association of Political Consultants. They hosted at Shelley's, and I remember part of it was they had this party that was completely free drinks, free cigars, and that was like, oh my gosh, I don't have this back at home in Erie or Pittsburgh or wherever I'm coming from. Like in DC, you can actually, as a college student, as an intern, you can go from reception to reception and pretty much graze. The city's expensive, but you could find ways to make it affordable.
Wow.
Especially as a grad student.
And so then at what point in this DC trajectory do you find PCA or PCA finds you? How do your paths cross with the PCA?
So I was working. Right when I finished grad school, I started teaching as an adjunct at WVU, and then I got my first job in lobbying for the American Motorcyclists Association. I did a stint with the American Diabetes Association, and then really kind of started to take it to the next level at the Community Bankers Association. And we had some big wins, Dodd-Frank financial regulation rollback, and I was leading the grassroots advocacy team, behind that initiative. And with that big win, I had a lot of flexibility of where I could go next, where the job that I would land. And concurrently, when I was at ICBA, my friend Dan Trope was the director of federal affairs at IPCPR, and I said, Dan, I need you need to start doing some grassroots. Grassroots is my specialty, and so Dan was able to get me a contract to be an advisor to build what is now Cigar Action. So before I actually came in-house and ended up taking Dan's job when he went over to work for Swisher, I did a year as a consultant for IPCPR building some of the grassroots there. And then, fortunately kind of stuck with it. And anybody that knows me well, that, there's no price that you can put on any other job. I believe that I truly, even when I was the head of government affairs, director of federal affairs, that I had the coolest job in the world. And I still believe I have the coolest job. It's very taxing. You have to make sacrifices, travel. But to be an ambassador for the cigar industry, and that's what I really look at it as, in addition to like the lobbying and advocacy, I also have to, spread the positive message of premium cigars, not only here in the United States, but elsewhere internationally, and really energize retailers, manufacturers that this is a great industry, and they're providing a service that makes people happy, like anything else in hospitality. When you have a steak, when you have a fine meal or a good glass of bourbon or wine, you're bringing joy to people. And I think sometimes because we're in that tobacco framework, people lose sight of that.
For sure.
And that message needs to be defended, and not even defended. It needs to be asserted, the positive message. Like we can't be defensive all the time.
Well, I mean, what you have just laid out there is the biggest challenge that premium cigars have, right? Our biggest challenge is separating ourselves from what the rest of tobacco is. I mean, there's nothing like a premium cigar. You can look at cigarettes and vape and all the other delivery methods of tobacco. They all come at a high cost.
Yeah.
A high health cost in comparison to cigars. Cigars are such low impact, and yet we get lumped in with products that really do not line up with this at all. It's a different type of user. It's a different type of usage. Those products are typically geared to encourage you to use them more and more and more throughout your day. And this isn't.
Yeah.
It's not. This is a cumbersome product. Like you can't just, like, there's very few of us who can do what you and I do, which is smoke cigars at our desks.
Yeah.
Most people do not consume that way. It's hard to consume a cigar, right? There's less and less places to do it. It's a time-consuming thing. You have to set aside an hour or two
Yep.
to do it. And so it's such a different product, but that is the biggest challenge, right? Is separating it from these other products. So along those lines, how do you, what are your immediate goals for that to sort of make that happen? And then long-term goals.
Well, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's an occasional enjoyment, and it provides a lot of us, at least, personally for me, relaxation. It's a calmness.
Yeah, everyone who considers themselves a cigar smoker would say the same thing.
And you also, like, you contemplate a lot. Like, my best thoughts, my ideas for new initiatives come surrounded by cigars. And, like, I typically towards the end of the night will have a cigar in the late evening, 10, 11 o'clock. And that's where that's my cigar for myself. And, I'm smoking throughout the day with people in meetings, and I enjoy the camaraderie of a cigar lounge. A lot of times, like when I'm traveling, even if it's for vacation or whatever, I will show up to a cigar lounge unannounced, and I want to kind of see what the process is. I don't say who I am, or, a lot of them are members, non-members. Yeah. And, like, I want to see organically how it is. And I meet a lot of people along the way, and you hear stories. And, it's fascinating how the simple product, and I mean, it's simple in some sense, but complex in others. You have 300 people and the time that it takes. But,
but at the end of the day, they're dried, rolled up leaves.
Yes, exactly. Dried, rolled up leaves, and how much it connects people. I'm mystified at that.
Yeah.
And like, it because you've been in it, and I've been in it for a while, but, like, that's the message that, like, I'm hoping others can enjoy this. Like, we want to see this continue. And, like, when I say we don't always need to be defensive, I think we found a strong point in the luxury lifestyle. This is a simple luxury, much like, you save up for a $50 bottle of bourbon. Anybody can enjoy this, but it is a luxury. It's not something that everyone gets to do all the time. Some cigars out there are very expensive, and you have them at different occasions. So we're connecting with a lot of other luxury brands. That's the FIU class master, the master class in luxury marketing. We're looking at some of the things that the spirits industry did, the fashion industry did, and getting adult consumers connected. So, we're working on a pilot project during ski season. And, I think part of it is the accessibility of cigars. My thought is, if we have a pop-up, let's say PCA installation in Aspen or Vail or Breckenridge with a champagne company, you're going to find a whole new adult audience that, oh, you know what? I have a couple hours before it's my turn to go down the ski slopes. I'm going to enjoy a cigar with a glass of champagne. So that
is going on the offensive.
That is going on the offensive. And like, look, it's not limited to winter sports. Like the beach clubs, you have the opportunity there. So we're looking at 25 markets and some other industry partners with this, whereby we would have these pop-up installations. I mean, if you go, and Miami is a perfect example of this. Like, you have watch companies that have pop-up installations. You have Illy Coffee or Lavazza pop-up installations, and they're getting it front and center. And I think as the association, we have an obligation and an opportunity to connect our partners together, whether, you need a retail license. So I can connect this retailer to do this pop-up installation with this manufacturer. And, in our network, I work with the spirits associations. So we bring all three pieces together. We don't need anything other than our logos there. We're helping facilitate this.
Yeah.
And we're getting people the opportunity and the accessibility to try this.
I really I like that. I like that idea, and I get the going on the offensive. I think that's really smart. But we still have to, at the same time, be defensive.
Yeah.
Right. We have to defend our rights. And so, so back to the question, what are your goals in the near term for defending those rights? And maybe is it still carving out an exception for premium cigars? Is that still the goal, or are there other intermediary steps, or what does that look like in terms of the defending? On the offensive, I think that's brilliant. But what about on the defensive front?
There's a couple levers that we can, utilize in any advocacy campaign. The exemption, that requires a ton of education. So we have to continue to make sure that lawmakers understand that this isn't a big cigarette, which is a continuous challenge. You have new people that come in and out, and they still have that misconception. And that's why, part of it is public relations, public affairs, of educating the general community of what this is and the time, the effort that goes into making a premium cigar, and looking at the data and the research. So, priority-wise, we've done a lot of work on this, but getting better data, whether it's economic data, health data, to, reshape the narrative and correct some of the inaccuracies that, these anti-tobacco groups, they apply the broad brush. They apply smoking, tobacco. We're included in this, but it has nothing to do with it if you actually look at the real data and the reports on it. So, correcting the record there, the exemptions will always be a part of the toolbox. I think that we lead with that in a lot of sense. In the courts, we have the litigation. Right now, we're final stages of the determination of what constitutes a premium cigar. We've had 2 lawsuits now in California, state and federal courts, alongside Cigar Rights of America and select manufacturers. So the litigation strategy, that's kind of the beauty of this country, where you have the ability, even after you lost in the legislative sphere, you almost get a second chance. And this industry is very resilient, so we will always fight back, every step of the way. And in some legislatures, going into this that you're not going to win. And California is a very tough state. Yeah. New York, very tough state. There are going to be what appears in the public as losses. But believe me, we're very aware of all the situational factors. And, simultaneously, we might be planning litigation strategy knowing that a law is going to go into effect. In the instance of California, they issued an emergency regulation. They didn't accept public comments. They ignored our requests for concessions. And now they're coming back around. They actually reissued a public comment and, are trying to make some adjustments to it because they know that their economic impact analysis was totally off base. They're bringing in significantly more revenue, which hopefully they will reduce the fees. Having to pay $300 per SKU is astronomical for especially these boutique small companies. Yeah. But the exemption piece, the economic health data, I think those are 3 critical pieces. And then, the litigation as kind of the backup plan is important. But we're bringing a lot of people together from the onset in a way that we didn't previously do. So quarterly we have the Congressional Cigar Caucus. There's 60 members of Congress. Some of them smoke cigars in their offices in the Capitol. And a lot of times we'll have at the Speaker of the House, their balcony, this quarterly event. We've had Carlito Fuente, Rocky, we've had, Lito Gomez. They're hearing the stories firsthand and they're excited. So it makes it so they're not as bashful about standing up for the premium cigar industry, recognizing that they're not standing up for big tobacco. This is a very niche industry.
Yeah, I think you should do everything possible to make that party on the terrace like the party that everyone wants to go to.
it's very bland in DC. Everyone wears kind of the khaki pants and the navy sport coat, and we're like, you know what? We're gonna throw a wrench in it. We're gonna bring the cigar culture to DC. And, you know, some people are going to like it and love it. Others are going to be like, that's not for me. But we, you know, having the music, having the quality food, quality spirits, we're appealing to a lot of other people. And we've had so many people come to our events and you know, we've had an education public engagement series. That's something that I started when I was the director of federal affairs. There's been thousands of people that have come through the PCA headquarters office, where it used to be just for fundraisers, just for meetings. And like, we have Domino's tables there. So like, we've really just changed it. It looks like a cigar lounge.
Yeah.
And so I now have the ability, that's a tool that I can leverage to educate people. You want to know what it's like? Well, everyone in this room is significantly over the 21 years old. You're playing dominoes, you're smoking cigars, and you're talking politics. Like, that's pretty much, you can go to 3,500 of our member stores and have that same experience. Everyone's, you know, welcoming. You have people from that make $50,000 or $30,000, and you have people that are millionaires.
Yep.
All walks of life, all race, religion, creeds. So, you know, we can create that microcosm there. That's very important to me, to give lawmakers the sense of what the cigar community is. And like, I always tell people, I'm a consumer first. So that's what I really enjoy, of like sharing the experience that I have as a consumer that has been welcomed in open arms in the cigar community with others.
Yeah, and, you know, it's a beautiful thing. I talk about it all the time. You can walk into a store where you're the only one that looks the way you do, and you're welcomed in because we have this one thing in common.
Yeah.
And that's all we need. With this, we can bridge anything. You can walk into a store where everyone is a billionaire and you're not, but we have this in common. We can talk.
Yeah.
You know, and that's very cool, and that's something that really only happens with cigars, and it's just a product that brings us together. So I'm glad that you're able to get that message out. And so we also have, you know, in addition to the regulations and the things that you work with in DC, there's also international things like tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the time that we're recording this, you know, Nicaragua is staring down the barrel of a pretty significant tariff. And so how are you involved in that? Are you? And what do you have any sort of insight that you can give us about that?
Yeah, we're, you know, highly involved with the tariff situation. I think our message as, you know, PCA, our brick and mortar retailers, are American businesses. These are, you know, 3,500 plus American small businesses, manufacturers. Many are headquartered here in Miami. These are American businesses. 50,000 American jobs are at stake. So our message is really, you know, America is first in the retailing of premium cigars, and having significant excessive tariffs on, you know, goods coming from Nicaragua, which is so important to the premium cigar sector, that puts it in jeopardy where, you know, the United States could lose out to another country of our, you know, top status of the premium cigar sector. So, you know, that message has been conveyed to the administration, to members of Congress, and I mentioned the Cigar Caucus. They understand it. I mean, there's a lot of folks that, you know, understand the complexities of the geopolitical situation going on with many different Latin American countries and the United States. But, you know, there's the ability to articulate our message, which, you know, we've seen it. We've gone to, you know, you and I have been in Nicaragua together. Mm-hmm. We've seen the communities that have been built up by the cigar industry, the positive jobs in Nicaragua that have been created by these companies. That message is important, but in this instance, in the tariff discussion, it kind of takes a back seat to what's going on here. And economic activity that's generated on main streets across the country in every congressional district here in the United States. So our message is very U.S. centric. That's what the the tariffs are supposed to onshore businesses that could produce things in the United States. Well, the tobacco and the terroir and the region and the nuances of it in Nicaragua cannot be replicated here in the United States.
Correct.
The businesses are based in the United States. So these tariffs, in the most punitive sense, would hurt American businesses the most. So that message is, something that we have been articulating to folks. A lot of this stuff is very delicate. I mean, it's a volatile situation. You've seen it with some other tariffs, the reciprocal tariffs. Yep. But we're pushing back on it, but we're doing it in a responsible way. The report itself started and was initiated in the previous administration, so I think also it's kind of educating this administration of some of the misconceptions from the last administration. And in our meetings, there's been very productive conversations. So I'm hopeful that in the near term and the long term, that there's some relief for products that cannot be made in the United States.
A lot of the other tariffs are part of a negotiation, and I feel like this one kind of has a different goal. And I may be wrong about that, but this has a different feel to it. This one feels more like a regime change type of tariff. It's not a hey, bring down your tariffs on our products, which is what they normally are like, the reciprocal kind. This one looks a little different, so that concerns me.
Yeah,
because when if that is their goal, and we obviously don't know. Yeah. But the motivation that you're laying out may not be enough, because my goal is so much bigger. My goal is not to bring down the tariff they have on our American products. My goal is a different one. And so I'm not sure.
And it's an investigation. It's called a Section 301 investigation. And, there was a public docket that was open. Yep. In that comment, we put together a lot of research, economic research. We work with an economist out of the University of Nebraska that, kind of put it in perspective of what the effects on the U.S. economy would be. And, very negative effects. And then we did some internal analysis. It would lead to a decrease in sales by 20%, and the prices would rise, you're looking at lost revenue from state and local taxes. So a variety of different concerns is what we submitted to the docket. And with these reports attached. So we very quickly were able to get data and research, and that's kind of what I mentioned earlier in the show. We moved very quickly, and we didn't make a ton of pronouncements. We didn't do a lot of press releases. I mentioned that it's a very fluid, delicate situation, and there are things that are at play that we couldn't possibly understand, that they exceed the depth of the premium cigar sector. It affects all facets of the economy, as well as diplomatic relations between two sovereign countries. So, our obligation is to assert the narrative of our membership and look at what's being proposed and say, hey, you might want to think about these consequences if these actions are pursued. And I think we've done a good job in laying that out. And there's a lot of stakeholders that have been involved in this process. And, this industry, there's 3 associations. We don't always get along. Yep. I can tell you, as it relates to this situation, tariffs and trade, all the differences, all the animosity, we're all together. We're all together in this. And that's kind of refreshing and hopefully a model that we can move forward with and see, all right, all 3 of us, we've been in line, we've been working well together. let's continue this and see what we really can do. You know, when it's not, on red alert. We're on red alert. It's red alert. This is a very significant challenge.
Yeah, and so you mentioned earlier the just transitioning off of that conversation. You mentioned earlier the FIU program, and so I think that you kind of glossed over it. So I want people to know what that was. So the FIU, it was a master's. Give it its name and describe it for people that don't know.
Yeah, so this is luxury marketing, the luxury marketing masterclass. It's in the FIU School of Hospitality. This is a program that we initiated as PCA, working with FIU. Worked on the curriculum. Maria and Ricardo, who work on our team, were instrumental in putting the pieces together. FIU, we approached them, seeing that they were doing some disruptive things. They had programs with Bacardi and Lavazza, and it's a growing hospitality program. And we're like, well, you know what? Miami's the Cigar Central. What if we go and we do a program with them? There's really no, there's Tobacconist University, there's the Cigar Academy, there are, private enterprises that you can get the fundamentals of the premium cigar sector, whether you're retail or manufacturing,
or consumer.
Or consumer. And, I had said, look, if we really want to take it to the next level, we need to work with an accredited institution. And FIU, we had heard that some folks in the past had talked about doing a course of this nature. And that's kind of been a priority of mine, has been education, professionalizing the industry. And it all comes to play of I believe that this is a good career trajectory for people. If you want to work in the premium cigar sector, it's noteworthy. But we're going to have to start to play ball in the normal societal conventions university. So, this is a pilot 3-day masterclass, sold out, renewed for 2026 already. We're looking at online components. We also did a pilot project with the University of Houston in the beverage program. But it's a part of a concerted effort to really professionalize the industry, get people quality education. And I'm facilitating the course, but the speakers, you're a speaker in the course. We're getting the experts, and they're telling their stories and how to, and there's readings attached to it. So, and a test and a tasting panel, and you get a nice official certificate signed by the dean, and I guess signed by me as well. But, it's really important that we have this opportunity for people, and I think this course is meant for people that want to take it to the next level. They might be an assistant manager at a retail store, or a sales rep that wants to be a national sales director, or wants to go in the the corporate side and leadership side. So we're providing this partnership. And one of the things I'm most proud about this project, and a couple ones, is there's been a lot of talk the last 10 years, and I've had kind of a seat at the table for at least the last 5 or 6 years of doing things. And we talked about this 10 years ago. We talked about this 15 years ago. And I tell my team that when we set our sights on something, we're going to take it across the finish line, no matter what I'm not an ideas guy just for the sake of ideas. We want to make sure that we execute it. And, the conference in Dubai and trade show, that was another example. People talking about it for 20 years. People talking about this FIU program for 10 years. We are delivering. We're going to deliver results. Some people aren't going to like it. It's not for everyone. And to make an omelet, you have to crack a few eggs. And, that's kind of the mentality that I'm bringing into this leadership role. I fought to be the executive director and CEO. I wanted this job. I don't want any other job. And I have 5 years to make my mark and reshape the cigar industry so it can handle the challenges for the next 25 to 50 years. And, it's others are going to be involved in it. Like, look, media providing a platform like this, you are all involved in how this industry is shaped for the next few years. And like, for me, if I'm fortunate enough to have a family, I want my son or daughter to have the ability when they're 21 years of age to choose whether or not to have a cigar, or maybe if they're in business to open up a cigar lounge or open up a boutique wine bar that has cigars that are available. So I look at it kind of from a personal sense as well.
I think that's great, and the idea of professionalizing the cigar industry is a noble effort, right? This is a business that is learned through tribal knowledge and associations and friends. Like, for example, just even my own, right? When I got into the cigar business through my best friend Jose Oliva, and so had I not had him as a friend, I don't know. I would have probably just been a consumer because I probably would be. It lines up with my taste, but that's how I learned the things that I knew about the business early on. Afterwards, obviously, I had to learn some other things on my own. But to make it something that an outsider who doesn't have a connection can really learn and take away some valuable insights that can help him or her grow in their career, I think that's a wonderful thing. And again, a very intelligent move by you. I'm excited that there is one in 2026. So what will you change? What do you have? What's missing? Like, for example, some of the financial components of how the finances behind the cigar business. I don't think that is talked about in the FIU program at the moment. Would that be something that would be added on for a 2026 curriculum? Or?
Yeah. And I think there's really 4 or 5 different courses that we could create as part of these different programs. And like I mentioned, the University of Houston, the beverage, like there, you could do a pairings class on, all the different components, whether it's coffee, spirits, chocolate, food, that could be a separate thing. We only have the one pairing component as part of this first iteration. I think the business and the financial side of things, that's a completely separate one that we could do as a stand-up, maybe work with a business school. I'm very interested in launching a program at the University of Las Vegas. They have an incredible hospitality school, and given our trade show there, we want to have something for the West Coast. It's easy for the East Coast people to have this. If we do something online and make it more accessible, we digitized all of our publications as PCA internally because we're recognizing we're becoming a global trade association. So like we don't want to have to create additional barriers where you have to fly here, you have to invest this, get a hotel, deal with traffic, all of that. Make it as accessible as possible for people. The agricultural side, that's another, and that one we're working on, and we're working on with other partners in the industry because that education really is needed in Nicaragua, in Dominican Republic, and Honduras. On the sales side, the marketing side, the business, the operations, that's here. So I agree with you that the sales and the financial side, I think that could be a separate course in a business program. And I had such a good experience working with FIU, and look, it's a non-smoking campus. You never know, how are they going to react to this? Are they going to cancel the program? Are they going to put all these constraints? FIU, it was really refreshing to see how excited they were. Their administration, their faculty, students, alumni, there was no outcry. I was worried there were going to be, these anti-tobacco groups are going to start coming, and what are they doing over here? And then they get attached to some donor and they decide to cancel the program. Couldn't have been further from what we've experienced with them. They understand that this is a tool of which we are teaching with. The lessons are ubiquitous. You could replace the cigar with another product,
Yeah,
for the
'cause
most part.
This part is about luxury marketing, right? So,
Exactly.
yeah.
So, that's how we kind of do step one of it. But the experience has been so incredible. I signed up. This is another crazy thing. I signed up to get my doctorate in business administration at FIU. So I will be coming once a month for the next 3 years to work on a dissertation related to highly regulated products, cigars being one of them, at FIU in the business school. So there's a connection there where I think that there'll be some room to launch a course that's more business oriented. I'm kind of working on that. And before we did this program in luxury marketing, and not a lot of people know about this story, I was a nerd and I took a class on cheese. I took a class on chocolate. I took a class on wine, and also on luxury fashion. All 4 of those to kind of compare and see, all right, can we do this? One was on the cheese class was fascinating. Sensory analysis at the University of Vermont. So I was applying some of these central themes into crafting this pitch, this sales to FIU of like, look, they have, if people can get enrollment for a cheese class. And then the real kicker was there was a couple of universities that started doing cannabis courses or beer making courses. I'm like, look, premium cigar sector, Miami, this is a natural fit. We will sell out. And, we did with 2 weeks to go. So I think that this will be a long-standing program that the association is really proud to get behind.
That's awesome, man. Congrats on that. That's a big win, I think. And so, yeah, I think the only thing we can talk about now is I need to know what some of your, aside from Shelly's Back Room, what are your DC cigar hangout spots? Like, where do you go to hang out? Where do some of our listeners, if they travel to DC, where do they go?
So DC, our office, if you're a member of the PCA, come by our office. We love having folks.
So if you are a retailer and you're a member of PCA, please stop in.
Retailer, manufacturer, media. If you have a vested stake in the cigar industry, stop by, have a cigar with us. That's, I'm whenever I'm not traveling, I'm there working in the office, smoking a cigar, usually having people roll through, even if it is for half hour, 45 minutes. In addition to the initiative on education and international, I wanted to be one of the most accessible trade association leaders. I like doing media, telling folks what we're doing, getting feedback from our members, and sometimes we adjust course. Sometimes, the last time I was here in Miami, there was a member that said, you know what, I don't care about the trade show. I don't care about, advocacy programs. All I care about is a find your tobacconist tool. If you get to find the tobacconist tool, I will never drop my dues. I will never not renew. So 3 months later, we have a find your tobacconist tool. And I said, I'm going to deliver on this. This is an easy thing, not very, it's time consuming, but it's not cost effective. So a lot of times when I'm in these retail lounges or I'm having conversations with people in the cigar industry, and I think some of my team, they hate this because then I'm like, all right, we got to execute this. We got to do this. So there's long-term projects that we're working on, but a lot of times in my travels, I find these short-term projects. So if you're in the cigar lounge in DC at our office, we'll generate some ideas and we'll have some follow-up conversations. The Clayton, they have a Chicago installation. They're a members club. They built one in DC. I go there a lot.
But that's members only.
Members only. There's not a ton of places to smoke in DC proper. Like in Northern Virginia and Maryland, there are more cigar lounges, more members. Old Virginia is a staple. 219 is a cigar lounge bar. I also am in the restaurant hospitality business, and 2 of my restaurants have cigar patios just so that I can smoke. So I spend, when I'm back in D.C., one's an Italian restaurant. And
Can you just give us the names?
Carbonara and Hyde Social. One's a sports bar, one's an Italian restaurant. And the Italian restaurant's my favorite. Friday, Saturday, Sinatra impersonator, tableside carbonara, tiramisu, and like I sit back, smoke a cigar, have a nice meal with a lot of friends. So that's what I do in my free time.
That's awesome. And so, what about in your travels visiting PCA retailers? Give me like a top 5.
Whew,
you're gonna piss
tough.
people off, but that's okay.
Up Down in Chicago.
Yep.
Phil's great.
Awesome, dude.
I know that Sabor Havana here. I mean, that I love it. And I'm excited to see the new bar.
Yeah.
I have not seen it yet. That's when you get off the plane, that's where I normally go.
Except today, where you came.
I came here. George is going to be mad. You know, I've been to some new ones, new member lounges, or like new clubs. The Stork Club, we did an event there out in Jersey that overlooks the New York skyline and like the Statue of Liberty's right there.
I haven't been there.
It's amazing. Kingmakers, they have a house cigar there. So we did an event with Kingmakers, and like just sitting there looking at the Statue of Liberty, I was like, wow, this is a cool venue for it.
The Stork Club?
Stork Club.
And that's not private.
That is, I think they have private components, and then there's some public ones there.
Okay.
I'm trying to like go around the country and see. I mean, there's so many just places that, Lincoln, Nebraska, Tony Goines, Capital Cigar. He also has a place called the Apiary, that's also in Nebraska. I mean, a lot of our board members have pretty neat, different, and very different themes. Like Scott Regina has a cool spot in Virginia that's connected to a brewery. So I like usually where there are places that have not only the cigars, but they have another theme to it, or another outdoor, indoor. Maria and I did an event at Holy Smokes in the near the outside of Orlando in the Villages. That was a cool spot.
Yeah.
You know, indoor, outdoor, like no matter where you sat, it was a good time, and people were super friendly. That's the other like key recipe to a successful cigar lounge. You go to somewhere, people are like, oh, there's the humidor, and like, you know, you're on your own, and it's everyone's on their phone, and like I try, and people tell me like, you got to get off your phone. I'm checking email all the time, and I've been trying to be more concerted about that. When I go to a cigar lounge, just sit there and have a conversation. Don't have a phone. At my parents' house in Erie, I built a cigar lounge, 4-person lounge in their basement. That's my favorite cigar lounge. It fits 4 people, sometimes 6, but like it's surrounded by historical firearms, books, and bourbon. And they call it the bunker. Man. It's a great time.
Well, good stuff, man. Dude, that was great. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
In the PCA, everything you do for this business. And that's it. I can't wait. If you guys didn't go to the FIU sessions, then look. How do they find the next classes that are coming up, or next events? How would you recommend that? So our show is listened to by consumers mostly, but also retailers. But what can you tell consumers about how to find out, how to participate in things like this? Yeah,
it'll be on FIU's website, the School of Hospitality, as well as the PCA website. I think we were shooting for October of 2026 to have the next iteration of the course.
More generally speaking, all the efforts that PCA does, how do consumers find out if you do let's say a pop-up in Aspen, or how would they find out? Do they just follow PCA on social media?
Social media, premiumcigars.org, for advocacy, cigaraction.org. Our Instagram is pretty active. I know that you guys have the leaderboard of all the different social media accounts, and I told Antoine we need X and Twitter, because I think of the associations, we're number one in all but X and Twitter. So that's going to be we're going to fix that next year. That's a next year priority. So he's going to kill me that I said that.
It's cool. Love Antoine, man. Good dude. So, all right. So thank you, man. Thanks for joining us. And so follow PCA everywhere you find them. Help them reach their goal on X, Twitter.
Yes.
So follow them there. I will make sure. I think I am, but just in case, I will do that. Thank you again for joining us, man. Josh Habursky, CEO of PCA, Premium Cigar Association. So see you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Cigar Snob on YouTube. If you like what you saw, like, comment, and subscribe. There's a lot of content on our channel. And we also print a magazine. So subscribe to that at cigarsnob.com. But in the meantime, catch you on the next one.